service. We're going to sing two from the hymn book tonight if you're a hymn book person, number 43 and 44. This is My Father's World and For the Beauty of the Earth. We're going to sing all three of This is My Father's World, and then the first and last of For the Beauty of the Earth. So would you join us as we stand and as we sing? All three stanzas. Our time for fellowship and welcome, and remembering our safety guidelines, please.
Ephesians chapter 5. That's where we're going to be tonight. But like last week, we're going to play us a quick game before we get started, just to make things a little interesting when you start talking about marriage problems. One of the couples that's going to be playing tonight said, "Are you just trying to cause marriage problems?" Since that's the topic. But I'm going to ask Dean and Hannah and Lee and Hannah if they'll come forward, and I'm going to ask the guys. Terry's going to go harass you in the hall. He's going to be our moderator to some degree out there in the hall. But we're going to play a version of the newlywed game, okay? And so even though they're not newlyweds, we're going to allow you ladies to write down your answers. Just bring them around and just stand outside the door there, Terry, so you can counsel maybe, but I don't know about coach. All right, so y'all know how this game works. I'm going to ask these lovely ladies 5 questions, and then we're going to bring their spouses in and ask them what answer they would give. Now, I'm going to ask you how your husband would answer this question, okay? So here is the first question. I'm not going to, because of the microphones and everything, I'm not going to read or say their answers, but you can hold your answer up and show it to the crowd after you get done. So who would your spouse say is the better catch? The better catch. No, better catch. Like, the better catch. How do you phrase that differently? Yes. Who got, yes. I think the guys are going to win. No. All right. There you go. All right. So go ahead and flip that over, and here's your next question. Your spouse has a day off and an empty house. No kid or kids, no dogs, cats, animals. How does your spouse spend that day? What answer is he going to give when we bring him back in here? That's the way to look at it. How would he answer this question? All right. You want to share your answers, or?
Oh, sorry.
You don't have to. I mean.
He would nap in the recliner.
Okay. All right.
Oh, sorry.
Sit on the front row then.
We would nap in the recliner.
All right. Next question. What is one thing that your spouse has that you'd love to get rid of? What is one thing your spouse has that you would love to get rid of that he'll answer that way? What's one thing he has that you'd love to get rid of?
No, ma'am. No.
I know that's a wrong answer.
It's a very wrong. He would answer that. I'm overthinking it. He would get rid of it.
He would say you won't.
No, I would get rid of it.
Yes. What we'll do is, rather than showing them off, because it is a little harder to read or see from a distance, we'll read them when we bring the guys in. So you ready for the next question? Number 4, your spouse asks you to get fast food dinner on the way home from work. Where do you stop? Where is he going to say you're going to stop? Hands down, Hannah's going to stop here. I can't get that wrong. You get that? All right. Ready? Last question. What is your spouse's worst habit? What are they going to say is their worst habit what you think is their worst habit? Y'all lucked up tonight. I give y'all and Janet and Dylan the night off.
His worst habit.
His worst habit, not your worst habit. Notice I conveniently left Misty sitting in the back on these questions. All right. Hannah, number 1, are you ready? Yes. All right. Terry. Quit coaching. All right, guys, come in here. We're going to ask you 5 questions, And you need to, the questions are going to be how you would answer and what answer you think your wife thinks you would put down. So, Lee, or Dean, come on over here. Beside your Hannah. Okay, so the first question is this. Lee, we'll alternate back and forth. Lee, who would you say is the better catch? No, Hannah's not. Do you know what the term catch? You know, okay. All right. So who would she have put down? Okay. So show us your answer, Hannah. So you got one wrong. Okay. So mark through that one for me. So who would? Me. mark through it. All right. Okay, so Dean or Lee, you have the day off, empty house, no kid or kids, no animals, nothing to keep up with, nothing to do. How do you spend your day? What would she say how you would spend your day? Working outside. Okay, we'll give you that one. Lee? Okay, we'll give you both credit on that, because if you sit there long enough, if you're like any other guy, you're going to fall asleep. All right, next one. Okay, Lee, this one's just for you. What is the one thing of yours that Hannah would love to get rid of? What is the one thing of yours that she would just love to get rid of? Okay, so mark through that one for me. Dean, what would she want to get rid of yours?
What's just big clutter? Clutter.
Is clutter?
Your eBay account.
Okay, well, mark through that one then. Mark it out. All right, now, the next one is for Dean. You ready? You ask to get fast food for dinner. Where is she going to stop?
I don't know. Where's she? I'm asking fast food. Where you going to stop? Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, all right. Got that one right, Lee? Chick-fil-A, okay. All right, last question. Lee, we're going to start this one with you. What is your worst habit? What would she write down is your worst habit? Leaving the cabinet doors open. All right, Dean?
I don't have any.
Conceded that. No, I'm just
Probably falling asleep too early before the baby falls asleep.
falling asleep too early. There you go. All right. Good job. So both of you got what? 2 right? Is that right? So what I want you to do, you got 3 and y'all got 2?
I got 3.
Okay. All right. So you both missed 2. So hand off your clipboards to your guys, and you ladies go out in the hall. And Miss Shirley, will you just stand out there and keep them company while and do whatever kind of coaching you need to, that like Terry did with the guys. All right, guys. Here is so help me keep score at home. 3-3. All right. Okay. So I'm going to ask you these questions. How would your wife answer these questions? First off, between the two of you, who will your spouse or who will your wife say is the biggest pack rat? I think we already knew in this one. So just go ahead and there's plenty of paper on there. You can. Okay. All right. All right. Second question. Your wife asks you to grab them a treat from the store on your way home. What would you buy? Your wife calls you or sends you a text and says, pick me up a treat from the store. What are you going to pick them up? Whatever store you think is in her head that she's going to answer to. Okay, convenience store. I'll give them the same thing. Gas station, convenience store. Slim Jim. See, guys, it's not that hard.
You're not married to my wife.
All right, are you both ready? Okay. Third question. If your wife could spend $500 on anything, how would she spend it? If your wife could just spend $500 on anything, how would she spend it? Tractor parts. I said tractor parts. I'm sure Misty would buy tractor parts. Ready, guys? All right, next question. If they had to take one thing, if your spouse had to take one thing to a deserted island, what would they take? They both wrote me. Yeah, that's what they... the kids, right? That's how you get the day without anybody at home, right? Is that they go...
She'd take her cell phone, but she wouldn't have a way to charge it.
All right. Fifth and final question. If your spouse could pick up and go anywhere in the world right now, you leave, you drive to Charlotte, you get on an airplane or drive anywhere you wanted to, where would they go? All right, Miss Shirley. We made it hard on these boys of yours. All right. It wouldn't have done any good unless they can understand scribble. All right, so here's your question. We'll start with Hannah. Not this Hannah, that Hannah. We'll start with Hannah. And so between the two of you, who would you say is the biggest pack rat? I would take it that his answer is not you. Hey, we're going to be talking about marriage problems here in just a minute, guys. All right, Miss Hannah. Yeah, Dean. All right. So we got 4-3. All right, Hannah. If you called Dean and said, "I need you. You're stopping at the store. I need you at the convenience store, gas station, convenience store." Okay, we had to have a debate on this. He's stopping at the convenience store, and you say, "Hey, pick me up a treat. Pick me up something." What is he going to pick you up? What's he going to get you?
Oh, boom!
All right. All right.
That was harsh, wasn't it?
Miss Crawford? What is it?
Oh, those fancy water. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we got 5-4. All right. The next question is, if you could spend $500 on anything, how would you spend it? $500. What did you put, Lee? New cowboy boots. All right. Miss Evans. How would you spend the $500 that miraculously ended up?
On the house?
Disney crap.
Dean said Disney movies, Disney stuff, and she said the house.
We need to paint the house.
All right. All right. If you had to take one thing and one thing only to a deserted island, what would you take?
Lily? I was thinking something too.
All right. Coffee. All right. So now we have, anybody? 5-5? All right. Last question, and I do have tiebreaker questions if you end up tying. If you could pick up and go anywhere right now, we get you in the car, you go to the airport, or you drive wherever you want to, Drop of a hat. You go anywhere in the world right now, where would you go? Good answer, Lee, just not the answer she was thinking. All right, Lee said Guatemala. Okay. For all the marbles.
I said the Harry Potter thing in Florida.
Well, I mean,
No, that's universal, isn't it?
it's universal.
Okay. All right. Both of you take a piece of paper out of the back of your paper and give one to your wives and keep one for yourself. There's plenty of paper in there. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to have you write down an answer for us, okay? Find something to bear down on. And we're going to ask you one question first, and then we'll ask you the second one if we have to, okay? Without looking at your spouse's answer or where they write, what is your dating anniversary? What is your dating anniversary? And it has to match 100% or no credit. January 28th, 1997, guys. See how that went? When? Date. Anniversary.
When we start dating.
The date you started, the day you started dating, the date. What would that day be? What is the date? This is a tiebreaker. This is for, all the glory.
Well, Hannah and Lee's going to win it because Dan will never remember it.
All right. Don't sound too confident over here. All right. So, answers? Everybody got answers? All right, we're going to start with you guys. So,
June 8th, 2009?
Miss Hannah, what do you have?
July 23rd, 2009.
That ain't bad.
It's just 6 weeks, folks, or 2 weeks, something like. All right, Lee, what do you have?
July 13th, 2015.
Okay, so I knew it was July 2015. I had the 15th, and I marked out the 20th.
No, okay. Turn your paper over, and we're going to give you one more chance to break this tie. All right. Where did you have your first kiss? And one of y'all got to get it right. I don't have any more tiebreaker questions. All right, we'll come over here to the Crawfords this time. Lee and Hannah, show us your answers.
Parking lot, Tony's ice cream.
Tony's ice cream parking lot. Okay.
Oh, God.
Okay. Let's see your answers, guys.
In a blue Mazda truck.
In the truck in your parents'
Good night, guys. Y'all both. Okay, go back to your seats. Oh, we're done. Thank you for playing. Y'all did a great job. Yes, give them a round of applause. They did a great job. Y'all make it so hard on me. Well, tonight we are, as I said, in Ephesians chapter 5. And we are continuing in our series on marriage problems. And I'm trying my best to keep myself in a job of doing marriage counseling by, playing these games on Wednesday nights, but it just ain't taken. I mean, these guys, you're not slinging stuff at each other, not getting overly upset. I guess I'm just not too good at these games, but nevertheless, till they get home, yeah. Well, we started off talking about love and respect and then genuine commitment, and tonight we are talking about time and effort, and we're going to be in Ephesians 5. We'll be in verse 33 tonight. And so I have a story to share with you about a former president, Harry S. Truman. It says that several years ago, the Harry S. Truman Library in Independence, Missouri, made public 1,300 discovered letters that the late president wrote to his wife, Bess. Over the course of a half century, so over 50 years, he wrote these 1,300 letters. It says, Mr. Truman had a lifelong rule of writing to his wife every day they were apart. He followed this rule whenever he was away on official business or whenever Bess left Washington to visit their home in Independence. Scholars are examining the letters for any new light that they may throw on political and diplomatic history. And for our part, the article says, we were most impressed by the simple fact that every day he was away, the President of the United States took time out from his dealings with the world's most powerful leaders to sit down and write a letter to his wife. And so, this is, granted today, sending a letter in the mail is kind of outdated, but the notion of sitting down and actually spending the time and taking the effort that it would take to sit down and write the letter and send it in the mail on a daily basis when separated, whether for work or something else like that, would be remarkable nowadays. But, he did this for 50 years, 1,300 letters. And so it's just remarkable that, he spent that time. It just shows you the commitment that he had to his relationship and things like that. But I want you to look with me in Ephesians chapter 5 as we get started this evening. It says in Ephesians 5:33, it says, Nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. And so in this text, what we see is really the key to what we're talking about here with this time and effort that we're talking about tonight. Because, when it comes to a lot of the problem, not all, but some of the problems that we face in marriage, some of them can be avoided definitely by putting the effort into the relationship. Because if we're not putting effort into the relationship, it's obvious that the marriage problems can arise. Because if one spouse puts things on cruise control and just thinks, well, I don't really have to work. There's no, I don't have to put any effort into this. We're married. It's eventually going to cause a strain on the relationship, because you do still have to work at the relationship. As I said, weeks ago when we started this series, the two hardest jobs you'll have in life are raising kids and being married. Those are the two most challenging things you'll do in life, regardless of what you do for a career or make for a living and things like that. But children don't come with with instruction manuals. They are you're learning on the job training, so to speak, with them. But when you take these two people who have completely different identities, completely different backgrounds, completely different life experiences, and then they join together in this marriage and they start to live life together, there's going to be times when there's conflict. There's going to be times when there's miscommunications. There's going to be times when there's great times of joy and a lot of good times. But there is the opportunity there that when we become one, when we come together in marriage, if we don't put in the effort and we don't give the relationship the time that it needs from us, then we're asking for marriage problems. It's just, it's like anything else. I've used the example before, and I may have used it even when we started this series. All those years ago when Misty and I started dating, if I had asked her out for ice cream in January like I did, and we went and got ice cream, and then I never called her, I never went by her house, I never talked to her at school, I never went to the restaurant where she worked. If I never did any of that again, would I have a relationship with her now? No. And she'd probably be a whole lot better off than what she, don't look like that when I say that. No. But all joking aside, there wouldn't be, because I wouldn't have put the time in and I wouldn't have put the effort in. And so without the time and the effort, there's no relationship. It doesn't matter whether you're dating or whether you're married or whether it's any other relationship that you may have with other people. If we don't put the time in and we don't put the effort in, then naturally the relationship is going to suffer. There's going to be problems. In that text there in Ephesians 5:33, Paul, when he's writing to the Ephesians, he speaks directly to the husband and to the wife. And Ephesians chapter 5 speaks in a lot of ways to to married couples. But right here in verse 33, it says, that each one it says each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself. And so what we see here is that that Paul is giving direction not only to the husband but also to the wife, saying that, okay, so these are two things that you can do that show time and show effort in the relationship that will pay dividends. This is what you should do in particular. He says that the husband should love the wife as himself, and the wife should respect her husband. And so he's trying to get them to understand that these are things that are crucial for the benefit of their relationship. Now, love must be given the opportunity to mature over time and really be given intentional effort. Think about this when we talk about effort. And I talked about sort of putting things on cruise control, so to speak, or autopilot, if you want to call it that. If you do that, you're sort of disengaging yourself from the situation, right? If you just sort of put things on cruise control, you're not engaged, you're not being intentional about it or anything like that. And that can cause problems in and of itself. The other day, Misty and I on Saturday were going to pick up some food for a get-together with some friends of ours to watch the Carolina game when Carolina trounced Duke. But, when Carolina and Duke played basketball. But we were driving on the highway, and in this rental car that they've given us since our accident, the first time I'd driven with this car with the cruise control, I was like, I'm going to put the cruise control on. And I did, and we're tooling down the highway, and then all of a sudden the car in front of us goes off into the turning lane to turn off on a side road. And this car has some automatic braking option or thing on it with the cruise control that all of a sudden Misty and I just lunged forward because it automatically hit the brakes because it saw that car veer off and thought that it was in our lane of traffic and we were going to hit it, and even though it was turning off. And Misty looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I ain't doing nothing. The car's doing it itself." And so, see, even cars can cause marriage problems. No, but in that moment, it's that idea of being on cruise control and then having problems arise like that you just have no control over. But the problem of it is you do have control over it to some degree because you've put things on cruise control and you're not in control of the situation. You're not making that effort and that intentional effort towards the relationship. The other thing about it is that it talks here in this study, it says that love must be given the opportunity to mature over time. And there, when it comes to a relationship, the maturity that comes along with time, the wisdom, as we were talking about this morning when Lee and I had breakfast together and did our Bible study, we were talking about wisdom and how it comes with age a lot of times. Maturity in a relationship and the maturity that love needs in a relationship, it does take time. Now, I'm sure that maybe even if we sort of polled some of the ones in here, some people probably didn't date as long as Misty and I did. We dated for almost 5.5 years before we were married. Some maybe dated for a year or maybe less or maybe a couple of months and then got married or something like that. Not saying that one is better than the other, but as those relationships progress, what you see is that the maturity that comes along with the relationship helps to not only grow the love in that relationship, but it also helps with the understanding of how to handle some of the problems that come along in the relationship and in the marriage. And so, the climate that is best for this, when we think about this time and effort, the climate for all of this is really set for us in God's Word. God's Word is very clear that, if you read 1 Corinthians 13, it tells you what love is all about. And when we look at that, we see the things that should be played out in our marriage relationship. And if we live out those characteristics of love in our marriage relationship towards our spouse, then naturally, not that we're going to magically never have marriage problems, because guess what? Conflict in marriage happens. It doesn't matter how godly the two of you are. It doesn't matter how much you are in love. Conflict's going to happen because you're two sinful, broken people living in unity together, and you have those differing points of views and differing backgrounds and perspectives, and it's going to happen. But what we see is that if we are living out those characteristics and those traits of love in our relationship towards our spouse, then it's going to help with the marriage problems when those things do arise. Because rather than taking the wrong perspective or stance on something, maybe we realize that because of us trying to live out that type of love, we realize that, you know what, yeah, I know I think I'm right, and she thinks she's right, but you know what, this is not the way, the way I'm handling it may not be the way that the Scripture's telling me I should handle it when it comes to this problem that we're facing. And so I need to dial it down. I need to change my perspective. Maybe we need to handle things differently. And so if we're living out that 1 Corinthians 13 type of love, then what we'll see is that it will help us when it comes to those times when we have those problems creeping up. Now, one of the things that it says here is that when the going gets rough, a couple doesn't just fall out of love. And that's an interesting statement, because it goes on to say that we should stay together and work things out. And I realize that working things out doesn't always happen. That's just, sometimes it doesn't. Because like I said a few minutes ago, if you have this marriage relationship and one of the spouses has disconnected altogether for whatever reason or in whatever way they have disconnected, then you can't have a relationship when the other person just does not want a relationship at all. So I understand that, but one of the things that we ought to do is really, rather than considering ourselves as sort of a martyr to a bad bargain or a bad deal, or something like that, we ought to look at, if we have the opportunity to work on those marriage problems before they lead to a split or anything like that. If we have the opportunity to work on that relationship, then we ought to see ourselves not as I'm right and he or she is wrong, but instead look at each other as, really heirs together to the grace of life that God has given us. And so, that we ought to do everything we can. And again, like I said, sometimes, no matter how much you pour into it, no matter how much you try to make things right, no matter how much time and effort you put into it, sometimes it just won't work. Especially, like I said, if one has disconnected. But we ought to try our very best and put the time and put the effort into it, and then and try to move forward together. Now, next week, we're going to look at the problem of pride. And as I said a few weeks ago, the last one in this study is titled, Don't Be a Fool. And then after that, as I said, we have sort of started doing our topic studies on Wednesday nights in groups of 3 to sort of stay in the same realm and sort of stay focused in the same direction. After we get through with marriage problems, we're going to look at divorce. Now, not all marriage problems lead to divorce, but sometimes they do. And so we're going to look at divorce next time, or in our next series. And then after that, we will look at remarriage. And so that's sort of the direction that we're headed in the next couple of weeks. But next week, we'll look at the problem of pride. And, if you really think about it, if pride was damaging enough for it to cause Satan to be cast out of heaven over, you can imagine how much damage it can do in a marriage relationship if we're not careful. And so we'll talk about the problem of pride next time. And so with that, we'll be finished for the night, but do want to remind you that Sunday morning we will be back in our series on the doctrines, and we're going to be looking at baptism and communion, or the Lord's Supper. And then Sunday night we'll be back into Revelation again, and next Wednesday night is missions night, so our WMU will meet and our brotherhood will meet But just a quick reminder, I mentioned it on Sunday night, and there'll be a sign in the lobby when you come in on Sunday and a note in the bulletin. But Sunday we will be doing communion, and we have the prepackaged cups and bread, and so they will be in the pews. I think they should fit in the holders, but we're going to put those in there, and so obviously just only touch the ones that you need to try and keep everybody healthy and safe. And if you've got small kids or grandkids that are with you, try and keep them from handling them as well, just to keep everybody healthy and safe. And so we'll be putting those out tomorrow after the cleaning folks finish cleaning the church. And okay. All right. So be here for Sunday school at 9:30, and deacons meeting on Sunday as well at 7:30. Daylight savings time. Anybody else want to add anything to the calendar? Oh my gosh, daylight savings time and a deacons meeting. Oh man. If I'm up here praying on Sunday and I'm just I'm deep in the spirit, folks, I promise. Yeah. Can't help but get up early on the daylight savings time day. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I'll close this out with a word of prayer, and we'll be dismissed. Father, we do thank you that you love us, and Father, that your word gives us such good instruction on not only our relationship with our spouse, but also our relationship with you. And so, Father, I just pray that we would be mindful of the time and effort that is required in a relationship. And Father, I pray that we would just do our very best to live out that love that you talk about in 1 Corinthians 13 for us. And I pray, Father, that we would live out those characteristics and those traits, not only when we're having difficulties in our marriage, but also just on a daily basis, so that we can show our spouse the love that you have shown to us. And so, Father, we just thank you for all that you do, and we just pray for your blessings on our church, and we just look forward to a great time of worship on Sunday, and just look forward to a great time of